Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be revisiting my rust technique by painting the auto gun this Kroot skeleton holds. Now if you watched the previous video where I painted the actual bone, the skeleton itself, I covered at length the reason this guy exists, so do check out that video if you're interested. But the first step in painting this is applying a base coat of Leadbelcher. So let me just open that up. There's not much of it left, but it will do the trick. So this technique, I have to say, it's not, it's not groundbreaking. It's very much sort of tabletop ready. I'm an alright painter. I get the job done, but don't expect anything sort of remarkable here. So let me just go and paint all of the metalwork. So I did say in the previous video, the army I'm putting together here have all got auto rifles or auto guns, and they're a difficult thing to obtain. It's not like las guns where there's plenty of old Cadian sprues littering the country that you can pick up on eBay quite easily. The auto guns are a harder thing to find. So for this army, I just so happen to have loads of Kroot rifles kicking around, and the sort of magazine racks from the new Primaris bolt guns, because of course you've got different options as to what type of loadout you have, so you end up having a few spare. So I kind of combined these two things to make my auto guns, and then later on realised that the Gene Stealer cultists exist, and they've got plenty of auto guns on that sprue, but even still, I think trying to obtain enough of those spare sprues to equip an entire army is pushing it. He says, realising that I have to obtain enough sprues of Kroot rifles and bolt gun magazines. So I guess it's tomato, but nevertheless, I've had quite a few made up already. So yeah. I do encourage you to go check out my other video on the sort of skeleton and painting the bone. But effectively, I've been piecing together sort of an undead 40k army, and this is the sole Kroot skeleton because it's been a bit of a mission building this guy. So go through there, just underneath. It's a bit tricky. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to undercoat all of the rifle, not the stock because I paint that wood. But yeah, cover this all in Leadbelcher, and I'll see you in a tick. There we go. So with that dry, the next step is to apply a wash of Nuln Oil. Now a little bit of a tip with these washes is if you hold the pot upside down, it's a bit difficult to see with the light there. If there's any paint or sediment stuck to the bottom of the pot, it needs a damn good shake. If you don't do that, then the washes, these sort of shades, they dry shiny, which is not ideal. I found out the hard way the other year. So there we go, top tip. So nothing much to it. I'm going to try and get it all in the recesses, give the metalwork some depth really before moving on to the next step. So yeah, you don't really need to see me apply washes because it's a pretty easy thing to do. So I will I'll see you in a bit. Right, with that all dry, we're going to move on to the next step, and you're going to need Skrag brown. Right. You're also going to need a brush that's fairly ruined, so the end of it no longer really holds a point. Luckily for me, that's most of my brushes. I do need to go and get some more. So effectively what we're going to do is stipple some of this brown paint onto the metalwork. Right. Now I find if you add a touch of water, not too much, to the paint, right, it just thins it down. And the amount of rust you want to apply to it is obviously really up to you. but you want to try and be sort of random with these splodges. Right. So maybe there are some areas that are thicker with the rust than others. So yeah, very, very carefully just applying them where I need it. Now, you have to be somewhat careful, because if you are using a brush that has lost a lot of its point, you don't want the bristles accidentally hitting parts that you've already painted. Right, so just be mindful of that if the brush is too fast, like sprayed out, and you've got loose hairs going all over the place, you don't want to hit some of the work you've already been doing, which is especially true for parts of the weapon that are sort of hidden inside like this. So yeah, that's that bit there. A bit more. So with the paint being a little watery, right, it allows some of the metal pigment behind the brown to come through, right? So you're not just painting sort of brown directly over. You are allowing some of the work that we've done previously to sort of appear through this brown layer. I just want to get a little bit up here. Right. Get into focus. There we are. That's a better shot. Yeah, so it's not all over the place, but there's enough there. Again, these guys, they're meant to be sort of dead, so their equipment is no longer really being looked after, and I'm assuming there's a little bit of moisture or salt in the air, which is causing all of their gear to rust up. So there we are, but equally this would be good for sort of orc stuff, I suppose, as well. Maybe some death guard as well. So there we are, right, I'll put that away. Now, the next step is using, what have I got here? Troll Slayer Orange. Let's give it a bit of a shake. Yeah. Now again with our semi-ruined brush, apply a little there, add a tiny part of water to it as well. And again, you want to go over the same sort of areas that you've applied the brown to, but just be a little bit lighter this time. We don't want too much orange. This is quite a bright paint for really what we're trying to do, which is muted, earthy tones. Which is unusual for me, really, because if you follow my work, an awful lot of the stuff I paint, I've noticed, is quite brightly coloured. So it's a little bit novel doing an army like this. This is mainly, as I said, muted, earthy tones. So some of it is a bit of a learning curve for me, I suppose, because I'm used to just painting those bright colours. Again, make sure I don't get any orange on the bone, because that would be a problem. And then maybe what we can do is just get some of the orange without any of the sort of watering down, and just pick out some areas, right, maybe in the middles of the sort of rust that we have been doing. There we are. Like so. Right, there we are. So that's what we've got so far. It's a little patchworky, but that's kind of the point. So I'm just going to leave that to dry and then apply the final layer. And that final layer is a wash of, you guessed it, Agrax Earthshade, which is a go-to paint for an awful lot of things. Now, I want to quickly point out that had I been painting this guy without specifically trying to do a video on the rust, I would have finished the stock, like the wood, the belt, the sort of leather that's wrapped around the barrel here, and then applied a wash of Agrax all over it right at the very end, just to save me a bit of time. But again, because I'm specifically doing a rust tutorial here, I thought it's probably worth just skipping all of that, and I'll do that later in time for the thumbnail. So again, make sure the wash is shaken well, and this is going to just apply that sort of brown final layer over it all, just like so. So again, I'm not going to do all of this while you're watching, because it's a very, very simple thing, applying a wash. You don't want too much because it will pull down in the sort of some recesses, and you'll get these horrible sort of brown spots right at the base of the model that you don't want. So again, only a light coat, because if it's too light, you can always come back and apply a second one. Yeah, so that's the technique. And where have I've got, there we go, this guy. So this is one of the models I've been working on sort of like the last few days. So if you'd watched my video on actually painting the skeletons, I mentioned the death rattle conversions I've done into Vostroyans, and if I can get it in focus, so there's like some of the rust as it's finished, and I think I've got this guy. So that's again the sort of final piece that I've finished the stock and the sort of like the oxidized sort of brass fixtures and bits and pieces. So that's kind of what it will look like in the end, right? And I think the next video I'll do is on the sort of oxidized brass or bronze chest plates here. This isn't completely finished. I need to do a little bit more work around the glowing parts and whatnot, but I think that will be the next video. I do need to convert a few more death rattle Vostroyans up before that though. But yeah, that's the rather simple rust technique that I've been using for my undead skellies. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, drop me a like, comment, subscribe. It all means a lot to the channel, and I will see you in the next one, which is hopefully the brass bronze chest plates.